Hey, what is up guys? So today we're going to be having a ban list discussion video. Now this is just kind of from my personal thoughts, as well as I took into consideration some of your guys' other thoughts when I was streaming. You guys were talking about the ban list in general. So anyways, let's go ahead and just talk about the ban list. This is just more for fun than anything. This is obviously not going to be like the official list. But we might get a few cards here and there, right? But anyways, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So, as far as cards that would be banned, going from Konami's logic, might as well ban Gladiator Beast Bestiary, right? No, but for reals, as far as anything banned, I could see potentially to get Snatch Steal banned. I mean, that is the card that everyone is just super not happy about, that we actually have it limited now. And I think a lot of players have been just screaming, please ban this card. There are a lot of dumb things that happen with this card. Now, the way I see this card personally, though, is that if you're going to be summoning a bunch of monsters, or if you're going to use your boss monster that turn, you better OTK or stun your opponent. And I know that sometimes, even if you have vanities, you know, when you're stunning your opponent and you have your strong monster out, Snatch Steal can be kind of an out in a sense that it's like, oh, you made this field that was supposed to be unbeatable, and now I have the answer. And that card is just really, really strong, especially if you're playing up against a deck that can kind of protect themselves with, you know, the Dante, and then they get more cards. But if you just take away that one card from them, sometimes it's just nice to have. Personally, for me, the way I see Snatch Steal is, I like it when I have it, but when my opponent has it, I'm not okay with it, and that's just kind of how I feel that card is. And it does definitely like steal games. It snatches games. I mean, it's Snatch Steal. It steals games. That is what the card is meant to do. So I feel like that has potentially a reason for its ban, but if it doesn't, I could see, like I said, it's kind of like an out to some stuff. Anyways, as far as things that are on the ban list that can actually go to one, oh, also, before we end off the whole like ban thing, let's just do everything in order. So, as far as another thing that could be banned, I'm thinking potentially maybe we'll see the same thing happening to the OCG, which is they went ahead and got all of the dragon rulers, and they decided to actually ban them, and then put the baby dragon rulers back at, you know, 1-3. It doesn't really matter, because without the bigger ones, they're pretty much useless, in my opinion anyways. Unless, of course, they release some more support that can actually support them. But it's all due to maybe them wanting us to try the new dragons, that they're going to be releasing some type of pendulum build, or they're going to try to incorporate a new way to play them, and we won't be able to just abuse number 95 and just kind of basically just set up the graveyard and then kind of play dragon rulers like free rank 7s for days like we used to. So it'd be kind of interesting to see, like I said, what they do with that, because I think that has a huge potential to be a really good deck. If everything else gets hit, and then, you know, we have the dragon rulers, so that could be something to watch out for. But as far as unbanned, meaning cards that they're gonna put back to one, you know, or multiple, I don't know. So first off, wind up something. I feel like Zen Mighty probably has the highest chance, and if you're wondering, Asian Eyes, why the heck Zen Mighty out of nowhere? Well, first off, they are getting more support, wind-ups, that archetype, so I'm feeling like, well, because they're going to get some more support, might as well just bring back this card, because this card probably has way more utility than anything as far as in the wind-up arsenal. Or we can go ahead and look at other wind-up cards that are at 1, like Wind-Up Magician. And maybe that could go to 2, maybe to 3. Again, it's all to, you know, introduce us to revisit the deck, essentially, because of the new windups that will be coming out into the game. I don't know what the windups do yet. They just had some announcement a long time ago that windups would get more support. Next up, as far as unbanned, we got Dragon's Ravine. That's another card I think that a lot of players were really upset that that card got banned. I mean, it was kind of like a once per turn Foolish Burrow, then you get to throw another like dragon from your hand, or whatever card you really wanted in your hand in general. So I felt like Dragon's Ravine, it got banned basically because of the dragon rulers in the first place. It wasn't because Dragoonities were good, but honestly, if you look at Dragon Ravine, you don't have to only play in Dragoonities, obviously. Now, this card is really good, and you really don't need Dragon Ravine if you have that new Dragoonity equip card, which is not yet out in the TCG, but if we get that, guys, Dragoonities can definitely still be playable. But I mean, I felt like Dragoonities were a pretty linear deck when they were, they weren't really even meta. I mean, they did some stuff at a few regionals, but I don't think this deck really ever took off. I know with the Dragon Rulers, yeah, of course, Ravine was pretty cool, but I'm saying like Dragoonities in general, just as a standalone deck, they never really were a super, super hot deck. And that is because, especially if you even bought this back now in the game, with the power creep in Yu-Gi-Oh, I don't think that this would change much. But I could definitely see it becoming unbanned. And it all comes down to maybe if that other new Dragon Sport's too good, they might just keep this card banned. And then again, they'll be releasing that card in the TCG, that Dragoon Equip card, which basically it lets you recycle your stuff anyways, so it's pretty strong. Next up, I feel like Solemn Judgment could also be a card, that trap card that used to be at 3. When it was at 3 though, it was so annoying just to be like, okay, Solemn, War Chariot. Like, Gladiator Beast abused Solemn Judgment so hard because, like, whenever you would try to disrupt them, they'd just be like, no Solemn, no War Chariot, and like you couldn't play. And it almost reminds me of kind of how Yu-Gi-Oh is now, where you basically make these fields that are super strong, and then in addition, if you had Solemn Judgment, it would be nice, but it is a pretty hefty life point investment. I mean, that's half your life. Of course, unless your opponent is activating, like, you know, upstarts, you're at 4,000 or less life points. Now, the thing with Solemn Judgment, though, is it's always going to be pretty much live. Like, it doesn't matter how much life points you have, unless of course you have 1 life point, which is pretty much irrelevant for mentioning, but you cannot actually have half a life point in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! But Solemn Judgment is just always live, as long as, you know, you happen to be able to activate it. Obviously, if your opponent happens to have a bunch of monsters on the field already, then Solemn Judgment probably not too good, but it does have a hefty life point cost, and I think this day and age in Yu-Gi-Oh! Sometimes if you're able to negate the right card, still in this day and age, it's still pretty good, but I feel like that could be a contender. Even though they gave us that Solemn Scolding, or Solemn Advice, whatever they called it in the TCG, that card, it doesn't see any play, and so maybe they're like, well, no one wants to play that card, so let's go ahead and bring back Solemn Judgment to 1 or something like that. Another card that I feel like could be unbanned is one of the Synchros here. Now, unless, of course, the Errata Bryanak. I feel like Bryanak is probably a card that can never come back, especially with the amount of crazy water cards that we already have in the game. But I feel like Trishula definitely has a chance to come back, because not only do we have a deck that can basically spam Trishula if they want to, or they can basically bring out Trishula majority of the time when they want to actually bring it out, that deck being Necros. Why do they have access to Trishula when, you know, all these other decks just don't have it? And would Trishula break the game? There probably is going to be someone that tries to break it. There's a lot of essential FTKs with this card, but what I mean by essential OTKs or FTKs is basically if I go first and I Trishula you 5 times and then I go, okay, go ahead, you're top decking out of a Trishula, and if I happen to have more cards in my hand, yes, things can get pretty nasty. But I feel like, you know, with all the cards like noded in the game, maybe it might be better to keep this card banned simply because of things like FTKs or crazier little combos in the game where we can potentially get Trishula 5 times. Again, it came down to like before when we had like Pot of Avarice, and then also when we had things like Soul Charge, but that's at 1 at the moment. But when we had cards that can just abuse it, or like the DC Resync Hero, I know it's annoying to run into, but those aren't the most consistent decks. So maybe it could come back, but again, you know, I wouldn't be super surprised if they just kept it banned. Next up, Stratos, the card that everyone has been talking about. Everyone's like, dude, why is this card even on the list? Dude, I've talked about it 1,000 times in my videos. I always kind of make a joke out of Elemental Stratos being banned, because it really doesn't make sense at all. But the thing is, I almost want to make a video simply on Stratos alone to talk about how Stratos, even if it was at 3, I don't think it could compete with the decks as right now, just because it searches out you 1 hero, and maybe you can go for a 1 card XYZ play if you set everything and you're adding Bubbleman. Yeah, maybe, but it doesn't really progress the game state, unless of course you're going all in, you're setting everything, and then you're going to go for a huge play. Dark Law is kind of like the best card heroes have, and other decks are pretty much using that card as well. But I feel like Stratos, the whole popping thing is pretty much irrelevant. That's probably, I don't even know why it's banned in the first place. I wish they had an explanation of why Stratos was even put on this list, because I think it's absolutely ridiculous that he's been banned for so long, and I don't think he would have done anything. And, I mean, sure, Shadow Mist searches out your stuff anyways. We have 3 Roto, we have 3 E-Calls. But the thing is, like, I don't think it would do anything for the game. Again, I feel like, unless you're setting everything, and at that point, you can argue, well, then you can just go Hero Lives, bring out a free monster, and then, of course, you get the free extra search if you're getting out Shadow Mist. I feel like, again, Stratos doesn't really make the deck super strong, but I don't feel like it really even needs to be unbanned to make Heroes like the best deck ever. It wouldn't do anything is what I'm really trying to get at here. But nonetheless, I definitely see, like, you could put this card to multiple. Like, why is even Bestiary at 1? But anyways, we'll talk about that once we get to it. But that's all I really had for unban, except for maybe like a wild card, because we'll talk about that later. We'll get to that at the very end. But anyways, as far as cards that would go to 1, I feel like Vandy's Emptiness, is a card that I think a lot of players don't really like. I mean, I know there's Dark Hole, there's Regeki, but I feel like Vanity's Emptiness is still one of those cards where it's just like, I mean, Royal Oppression is actually on this list for a reason, and I feel like it's almost the same thing. I mean, technically, yeah, of course, if they Regeki you, you're going to lose, you know, your field, and of course, you're going to lose the card. But Royal Oppression, it has almost the same utility is what I'm really trying to get at from this. And then, I mean, I know with Royal Oppression, you have to pay life points, but, I mean, the life points cost is so small compared to what it actually does that I think that they're very similar, like I mentioned before. So I feel like it could go to 1, it could even go banned. I believe in the OCG they decided to put this card at 1, and I think that that's kind of okay. Another card that I feel like could go to 1 is Mind Crush. I know that, like, Thunder King's at 1, and, like, they're like, you know what, we have to let them get as many searches out as possible, otherwise the best decks won't be the best deck. Now, Mind Crush has basically proven itself to be one of the best side deck cards in the game right now, especially because so many decks search, and not only is it able to basically see what your opponent has in their hand, but you're able to get rid of potentially a key card that they really needed to search out for, whether it be something like Deneb to start their stuff, or you know they have multiple Altairs, or you know they have multiple cards of a specific one in their hand. You obviously can see their hand and you get rid of multiple. I mean, I feel like Trap Dust Shoot essentially was banned because getting that knowledge is just so strong in the game, especially turn 1, and almost every deck was in turn 1 search, you know what I mean? So I think that it definitely has a huge potential just to be limited, because when you have that card and you open up with it and your opponent just immediately searches, it's just too painful for the other player to try to come back from that. And I know it's kind of like, in a sense, like it's supposed to be like an anti-meta-ish card, but I mean, when every deck searches, I mean, you could basically main deck this, main deck the Mind Crush in a lot of different decks. Next up, as far as things limited, I feel like Preparation of Rites, Manju, Senju, I feel like they probably won't touch Necros that hard. I feel like Bryanek is probably their best card. Bryanek and Unicorn are pretty much the main cards in that deck that really make that deck super strong, that are specific to that archetype. Now, what kind of makes me upset in the way that most of these ban lists are oriented is that it hits things that work for other decks. It just, like, clearly Necros are the ritual deck. Like, the best ritual deck right now, and the thing that's making them so good is that, like, Necros. That's the archetype that is ritual based only, and then instead of hitting Necros specifically, they're going to hit the other cards like Manju, Senju, Preparation of Rites. But I think Preparation of Rites, like, hands down, we already know that card is just way too OP. So I feel like all those have some potential. But if you really want to kill the deck, it would be probably to hit Bryanek and Unicorn. That would actually hurt the deck more than anything. Or Valk. Valk is just, oh my gosh, the card is like, it doesn't let you attack, and the monster stays on board. It's too strong. And then it has like other effects. It's got large attack. I mean, could you ask for more in a card? But yeah, as far as other things limited, I feel like if they decided to hit, you know, something Cliff Fort, something Burning Abyss, that can definitely be a thing as well. Cliff Fort, I feel like Summoner's Art, also the Scout would be a good card, also the Sacrifice. Those are all good cards to kind of slow down the deck if they wanted to hit something in that deck. Now, I feel like they wouldn't hit Summoner's Art because I mean, we keep on getting these promo cards that are all about the normal pendulum monsters, right? So I feel like that would be kind of lame that they would hit the Summoner's Art instead of just the specific Clees, because Clees are the only deck that really makes use of Summoner Art as of right now, which, you know, potentially in the future, when we get other things that can definitely change. But for the most part, it's basically just the Scout. Oh, and Monolith, can't forget that guy. He is pretty cool for drawing cards. But yeah, those are the cards that I would say has a lot of potential to be a hit, if any, in the Clees, whether it's limited or semi. As far as Burning Abyss, I mean, you can get rid of Seer, you can get rid, well, any of the real Burning Abyss monsters in their lineup that people actually play. Lake, Dante, I remember someone was talking about Virgil. I mean, there's been decks that don't even really care about Virgil. I think Dante is the main card that they really need, essentially, to get the deck rolling. I don't think they would ban it, but again, we're talking about, like, limited / semi over here. So I think, you know, Lake is one of the most annoying cards, though. Like, I really hate running into that. It's like an Icarus attack, but better, and then they get to go plus with it. As far as limited to one, like, more crazier cards, I feel like maybe if they decide to bring back some stuff that is banned, and it all comes down to the new errata, which was kind of why I wanted to mention it right now, is because they're reprinting things like the Ring of Destruction and the Crush card. I feel like we have a lot of potential for Crush card to go to 1, maybe Sinister Serpent, Chaos Emperor Dragon, Cyber Sign, Tribe Infecting, Ring of Destruction, Dark Magician of Chaos. Like, all these cards that are banned, they have some potential to be limited, and again, it all comes down to if they get the errata and they basically change the effect of the card. Now, other cards that I feel that potentially, I actually even feel like Stratos could technically almost go to 2, but now let's go ahead and actually talk about the semi-limited. So as far as semi-limited, I feel like Rescue Rabbit over here, where's our little bunny over here? It's been at 1 for a while. The OCG has it at 3, and it really didn't do anything. I understand Evil Storms are annoying to run into, but with all these normal pendulums and stuff coming out, it's kind of cool to see if someone tries to incorporate them, maybe even a Rescue Rabbit deck. I don't even feel like Dino Rabbit can really do anything, especially when we have Macro and D-Fissure at 1. If you guys are wondering, what about D-Fissure Macro? Why can't those go to 2? Well, I feel like there's so many cards or so many decks and archetypes that revolve solely around the graveyard that it would just kill those decks, and it looks like they just want to keep those decks, you know, at the higher list on the tier side. And if they really wanted to bring down, I mean, like, it's anti-meta for a reason, but it's not even going to be able to compete. They just lose card advantage too much, and even Dino Rabbit would lose card advantage when you compare it to some of the things in the game, which are just getting you so many free searches. Unless, of course, you open up with, like, Yugioh, then, like, a D-Fissure and, like, a Macro or something like that. Yeah, you could definitely still stun some decks, but that's requiring you to open up with 1-ofs. But I feel like a Rescue Rabbit has a huge potential to go to, like, 2 or something like that. Other things that I feel like can go to 2, anything in like well, because they're supporting the new whole Atlantean. Well, there's only one real card that we're actually excited about, which is the Atlantean Prince. If you guys haven't checked it out, that card OTK is like crazy. It's like a 1-card OTK, and there's so many different ways to pull it off. Whether they put Diva or Dragoons to 2, I don't know which one, but if they do anything with that deck is already like really, really good. And if they do anything with that Diva, Deep Sea Diva over here. Yeah, and I feel like also there's another card I wanted to mention before I forget, because I didn't actually write it down, which is Gen X Ally Birdman. I want this card to go to 3 so I can do some crazy shenanigans with just Monster Mash. I love this card so much, and it's such a cool little utility card, and I like how it interacts in the game. And you can also make this other Gen X Synchro that lets you take like the highest level of monster your opponent controls. I really like that Synchro. No one ever expects that card, like, what the heck is this? I gotta read its effect. But I really do like Birdman, so I feel like I wish Birdman went to 2 or 3 or something like that. That would be pretty cool. I don't think it would really change the game, unless some of you guys know some combos. I know Divine Wind of Mist Valley is already at 1, so I don't feel like this card can really break it. There's also more Harpy stuff coming out in the game, so I'm like, maybe they'll go ahead and just bump Divine Wind of Mist Valley, and then maybe I can understand if they keep Birdman at 1. But more likely, I think that this card deserves to definitely be at least. It should totally go to 3. It probably wouldn't even change the game. Unless, of course, you guys know some crazy, like, FTK that I just don't know of. Well, I do know of FTK with Birdman. It requires you to have Birdman and Quackimero Doom and Galaxy in your hands. So it's 3 cards. And it was so easy with Sangan, which is another card that we'll talk about. I feel like that's kind of a wild card. We'll talk about those wild cards at the end. But, unless, of course, they errata Sangan somehow. But, yeah, I feel like Gen X Ally Birdman can definitely go to 2 or 3 or something like that. Also, Monster Gate, I believe that card is still at 1, if I'm not mistaken. Is Monster Gate still, these are forbidden. Monster Gate is, yeah, it is limited. That and also, I think a Reasoning is at 2. Is Reasoning still at 2? It's, oh, actually, it's no longer on the list. We can indeed run 3 of these. Oh, that was just changed. But, Monster Gate can also be used, it's basically kind of like Reasoning, but your opponent can't call the right thing. It's basically used in Infernoids, and apparently Infernoids are going to be really good. They're releasing more support for the deck, so Monster Gate, if that goes to 3 or 2 even, it would definitely improve the deck a lot. And as far as Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Spirit, I feel like that card could go to 2, maybe to 3. Fire Fist, you know, they're kind of like a phased out deck, and I remember when that deck was super strong, and like bears were 80 bucks. But, yeah, and another card that I feel like would be cool to have at 2, just to kind of, like, give back in, like, an older card to 2, would be Dark Arm Dragon. The OCG had it for a while, and I thought that was too cool that they had 2 Dark Arms. And I really like this card, because, like, even though, like, you can't play Teledad, really, if you just put it to 2, it would be super sexy, and I think a lot of players would be excited to try to make some other, like, return Dark Arm, or just basically try to bring the deck back, return it into the game somehow. I mean, we do have a lot of cards. We have 3D draws now, so maybe someone will try to really bring back the deck. And especially with Shadow Mist, I mean, if you're able to, you know, maybe Dark Law someone and then go for like a huge play, it'd just be kind of cool, like I said, just to see some of these decks that don't really see any play. Even like the older decks to kind of bring them back would be kind of cool. As far as cards that could go to 3, in my opinion, well, I mean, the whole video is my opinion anyways. Well, like I said, I did take some of your guys' consideration when I was live streaming and we were just talking about it. I feel like cards that can go to 3, Tragodia, I mean, it doesn't really do anything in the game, and it's kind of a card where you're going to have to take damage, and most of the time you're going to be, if your board is either blank or if you're taking damage, you have to have a lot of cards in your hand anyways, and I feel like card advantage doesn't really mean too much right now in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Where you can have like 1 or 2 cards that can OTK or do some crazier stuff, so I feel like Tragodia, it'd be cool. Also Gores, just to prevent you from getting OTK. Also with Tragodia, preventing you from getting OTK is kind of nice. If you guys haven't seen Zephyra, which is a new archetype, I feel like that archetype is going to be relatively strong. That deck can OTK. There's so many decks that OTK, and it would just be nice for us to have some of these. Or if these stay at the way that they are, or they decide to put Gores down to 1, like that Mermal deck with the new Atlantean card, that deck is just going to basically stomp on a lot of stuff because we don't have access to those other cards. I feel like Card Trooper has some potential over here. I mean, we have Curry Bandit that basically replaced Card Trooper in one sense, and I feel like, well, Card Trooper, why isn't that 3? You know what I mean? I feel like Chaos Sorcerer, Goyo Guardian, those cards that go to 3 won't really do much. Dark Hole could even go to 3. And because of the new number 95 card, I feel like Heretic Seal of Convocation could also go to 3. It'll promote that deck a little bit more, and maybe Red Eyes can make use of some type of Heretic Red Eyes. We'll have to see if that deck can become like another rank 7 spam deck. Another card I feel like could go to 3. I know they usually don't put cards that are at 1 straight to 3, but sometimes they do it. The Gladiator Beast Bestiary. I feel like this card go to 3. It won't do anything in the game. Where's that Gladiator Beast Bestiary? Why is this card at 1? Like, my logic with this card is, okay, Glad Beasts, they're not very good in the first place. And if the whole, just destroying back row is too OP, why do we have Denko Sekka at 3? Why do we have cards like, well, Wiretap is pretty good, but that only, it gets rid of like 1 card. And like, we have Denko Sekka, which gets rid of everything. We have Royal Decree, which is at 3. Like, I think Royal Decree at one point, wasn't it, like 1 or 2 or something like that? But nonetheless, I don't feel like Glad Beast would do anything, and they're recruiting Gyzeris, so I'm like, okay, maybe if they give us Gyzeris, that's like a hint. They're like, yo, Glad Beast, new support coming out. Because they did release some more support for Gladiator Beast, but no one really used it, and it wasn't exactly the best of support. But nonetheless, I feel like Gladiator Beast go to 3 and don't want to do anything. Inzektor Hornet, I feel like Hornet could definitely go to 3. Dragonfly, on the other hand, that card is really, really strong. I mean, you already have Mathematician just to send, you know, the Hornet to the graveyard, so you can kind of set up, but I feel like Dragonfly is probably the better card. If it did go to 3, that would probably improve Inzektors a lot, but if you put Hornet to 3, I don't think the deck will change very much, where, yeah, Dragonfly would definitely make the deck much, much better. And the Inzektors, I mean, they can still technically OTK, but when you look at, you know, so many other decks that can OTK, yeah, it's definitely viable for that Hornet to definitely go to 3. Next up, I feel like Burrow from a Different Dimension. Like, is there a reason why this card's at 1? Again, sometimes I don't know about some crazier combos in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! So, Burrow from a Different Dimension, if that card went to 3, I don't think it would do anything. Again, let me know if I'm wrong on that card. And then, now let's go ahead and talk about the wild cards in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! So, every time that there's a ban list, every time so far, basically in the last couple of years, we've always gotten a card that we're like, what the heck? When Regeki was legal, everyone got super, super worried about that card. And, I mean, it does definitely see some play. People were like, no one's going to play Regeki. It's not relevant in the game. It's pretty relevant in the game because of locks and Vanity's emptiness. And, of course, if Vanity's gets banned, then, you know, obviously, you know, some people will just, you know, phase out and not even decide to play that card. But we got Regeki, and then we got Snatch Steal, which I think a lot of people were like, what the heck? Why are these cards here? Where's Snatch Steal? Yeah, when this card became unbanned and was limited, a lot of people were like, oh my gosh. So here's my oh my gosh, what the heck, wild cards for the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! I feel like Thousand Eyes, Restrict, maybe, and all comes down to if we get Instant Fusion at 1, because I feel like Nodin is still better than the Thousand Eyes Restrict, because Nodin opens up a lot of crazier FTKs, OTKs, so that's my personal argument as far as the Thousand Eyes coming back. I know you can Instant Fusion it, and then you can just get it back, and you can, like, basically absorb a monster. Pretty good. But when Nodin opens up so many FTKs where, you know, you can't FTK with Thousand Eyes, to my knowledge, and I'm talking about, like, first turn, like the starting first turn, not your first turn. But I don't know of any with Thousand Eyes, but yeah, it probably wouldn't do anything if you're going first turn. But Nodin opens up a lot of doors, so I feel like, well, if we were to have Instant Fusion at 1 in the OSG, maybe they'll go ahead and limit, you know, the Instant Fusion here in the TCG. But I feel like since we haven't even gotten Nodin, maybe they'll just be like, well, let's go ahead and sell a couple of things or a few sets after, so we can make sure everyone gets to play with Nodin for a while, and then we'll go ahead and put Nodin to 1 or ban it or whatever. But that card is just much better, in my personal opinion, than Thousand Eyes Restrict. But another card I felt like would pass the potential to come back that everyone would be happy with is Scangan. I feel like this card's a little bit too slow in the game, and obviously there's a lot of decks that can make use of it, but it is technically a slower card in the game, and so that's where I'm like, well, if everything's super fast in the game, maybe we can have Scangan. I mean, you do have to set it, you have to wait, and then it does have to hit the graveyard, so it is kind of a slower card like I mentioned, and that's basically my argument for that card, but it's kind of like one of those wild cards where everyone's like, no, that card can't come back, but I feel like Scangan's kind of on the fence on this one. Another card, well actually 2 cards are kind of the same, is Heavy Storm and Harpy Feathers Duster. Both of those cards are banned in the TCG, and I'm like, well, Feather Duster is legal in the OCG, and that basically does promote pendulums, because when you have a pendulum deck, you don't really want a Heavy Storm, you know, you want to just get rid of your opponent. So perhaps, I mean, it's not like, well, to my knowledge, I don't think Harpies can like search this card out, right? But if maybe there's a card that searches out like a Harpy card, but nonetheless, Feather Duster or Heavy Storm would be kind of cool. It's kind of like a, whoa, oh my gosh, this card is back. And, you know, obviously, back row hasn't been doing too hot in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Simply because there's so many cards like Denkosek, or just decks just don't care about the back row because they can just overwhelm them, and you'd rather play cards that stop your opponent from getting out the card in the first place, such as like Vanity's Emptiness and stuff. And then for the lulz, I decided to put 2 cards that would be funny if they errated them, because, I mean, we're getting these erratas that totally make the card completely different. I think it'd be funny if they released Pot of Greed, they unbanned it, and then went ahead and were like, okay, Pot of Greed has the new effect that you can draw 1 card and then you end your turn completely. Because, I mean, these new erratas basically don't even have the same effect. The cards aren't even nearly as good as they used to be, especially with Crush card. That card could even be minus in a sense. But anyways, and I thought it'd be funny if they unbanned Gateway of the 6, and they had the effect that you can't special summon while this card is on the field, so you can only use it to boost. I thought that would just be funny. That they, if they put Gateway back, and they were like, we're gonna errata Gateway. I know, and this is just all because I think it'd just be funny. Just like I said, it was for the lulz if they went ahead and re-errated some of these cards. And then for my personal ban choice, which is the same as every year, can we please just ban this card? This is one card that I've always wanted to ban. I don't like this card. I know it's not like it's really relevant, but I really hate when someone world tributes me for 5 cards. There's several videos I already have on this. Actually, I totally remember I had a video where I was proving that World Tribute was OP. I World Tributed someone, and then I used Eradicator or something, and I just got rid of like all his cards, and it was like the stupidest thing ever. So this is more of a personal choice than anything. If I could ban 1 card, it wouldn't even be related to the meta. I just don't like this card. I just hate its effect. But that's just some random thing that I could make I could make a 1 hour video on how much I hate Royal Tribute. But anyways, guys, let me know what cards would you like to see banned, forbidden, or that's the same thing, banned, limited, semi-limited, or maybe put to 3 or put to 2, or what card, if you could ban 1 card also, what card would it be? Like I said, it's not even relevant, but I hate this card so much, just because I don't even like playing against Grave Reavers in the first place. It's like, I set like 500 back row, and then I set Spy, and then go ahead and then use, I flip Spy. I've seen that deck so many times. Anyways, yeah, like I said, I can rant about that for too long. But anyways, guys, let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below, because we will indeed be getting that ban list probably within the next week. We do have confirmation that the ban list will be coming out before February 1st. Sometimes they surprise us on that specific day, which is on April Fool's. What a scumbag thing Konami would do. If they would actually troll us, I would love for Konami actually to do that. If they actually troll us with the ban list, and then they just like decided to do some really stupid things, and then they decided, okay, it's going to be April 1st joke, and then we'll actually release the real ban list. But again, we do have confirmation that they will release it before April 1st, and that was by Julia. So anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day. Azneyes signing out. Wow, dude, half-hour video. Time flies when we're talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! But see you later, guys. Have a great day. Azneyes signing out. For reals this time.